Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, the weekend watch. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. The weekend watch I'm referring to is what to watch for as we head into the weekend. We normally do the bull market support band update on Sunday nights, which really is early Monday morning UTC time, but I also wanted to provide an update this week as to what you should be watching for as we go into the weekend, okay? So, Bitcoin is now trading for a very modest $47,394, okay? 47.4K. And the reason we are very curious as to what happens this weekend is because of the 8-week SMA. Now, the 8-week SMA historically is not always a great indicator, okay? And I'll show you what I mean, but then I'll show you why lately it has actually been proven to be very important. So historically, the 8-week has not really been that reliable in terms of identifying local bottoms or anything like that. For instance, if you had used the 8-week back in 2016 and 2017, you would have always missed the bottom, right? You would have always missed the bottom, and you might have assumed that the bull market was over if you were using your 8-week moving average as reason whether you should be bullish or bearish, okay? So we only ever went below it a few times. In hindsight, the best way to use the 8-week moving average from last cycle would have been to say, if it ever goes below the 8-week moving average, well, historically, that's a good time to buy up until the very end, right? Up until the very end when the bull market was over and the bear market hit. But if you go back to the cycle before, we know that the 8-week moving average, once broken, is what led to the break of the 20-week estimate right here. Okay, and it was more important back then. We were staying above the 8-week moving average, and it was only once we broke it that we had a close below the 20-week, and it was only once we broke it here that we had again another close below the 20-week. So in the double peak cycle of 2013, the 8-week was somewhat important because what it signaled is that the 20-week would break. Now, fortunately, on this break, we fairly quickly got back above it, and that's why I've said before, you know, if we just go down below it and then come back up the next week, we're still fine. We're flirting with danger, but we are still more or less fine. What's not fine is when you open candles below it and you close candles below it. That's really not good. But we'll have to keep an eye out if something like that were to happen again this time. Now, why is it important going into the weekend? Well, look what happened during the last leg to the cycle. The 8-week, more or less, held as support. We had no weekly closes below the 8-week moving average. If we go back to, say, mid-October, all the way through mid-April, we did not have a close below the 20-week moving average. I want you to think about that for a minute. Because, my friends, that is 6 months. That is 6 months, okay, of Bitcoin not closing below its 8-week simple moving average. 6 months. Now, why is it important to look at this weekend? Well, we're flirting with it, right? We're flirting with it to some degree. We actually have a little bit of wiggle room at the moment. The 8-week SMA right now is at 46,769. So, you know, we could drop around $700 to $800 and still be somewhat okay in terms of holding the 8-week. And if the 8-week holds, okay, if we're able to put in a couple weeks where the 8-week is holding, then it might seem that the path of least resistance is to just simply leave people behind that are waiting to go back to say 30K or to go back to say 20K. It just simply might not happen, okay? And that's kind of what happened over here, right? There were a lot of people waiting for a major dip, and then by the time the dip came, the dip came and it just took us back to 29,000. But most of the people that were waiting for the dip were waiting for the dip way back here. Okay, they were waiting for the dip way back here. So to get a dip back to just where it was a few weeks ago would not have been seen as that attractive by a lot of people that had been waiting for a dip for quite some time, because they would have been wanting a dip more maybe something that looks like this, where it actually gets back down to some lower levels where they can feel like they're buying Bitcoin for cheap. Buying Bitcoin for cheap is a very relative matter, and it's based on what's happened over the last few weeks as to whether someone deems it cheap or not. For instance, right now, a $47,000 Bitcoin might feel expensive if you didn't buy any over here. But again, I've always said, when the market is bearish, that's when you buy. Right? It's a pretty simple concept if you think about it. Like if you look at the markets and you're just seeing red constantly, that's typically when you want to buy, and that's not to say that it has to go up immediately. Like, it doesn't, and there's been plenty of times that it doesn't. And I mean, this was a 3-month lull, and we said it's going to be a 3 to 6 month lull. But what happens is eventually you come out the other side, and eventually Bitcoin bails everyone out, and eventually that will come to pass. But at the time, it can be kind of hard. So the best strategy is to just simply don't stray, just DCA. Right? That's the best strategy. And then when things get bullish, you just let it ride, right? You just let it ride, and you don't really care if the dip comes or not, because you already bought Bitcoin. Like, you have your stack, you're ready to go. If it dips, then fine, you'll scoop it up. But if it doesn't, who cares, right? Who cares? You don't care, because you had your chance. So going into the weekly close, I would say the 8-week moving average, this is actually a fairly important week. I think it's a quiet week to some degree. Like, it's not very glamorous, but if we close below it, then what's more likely to happen at that point is we're going to get weekly tests of the 20-week. So if Bitcoin does not get back on this 8-week SMA train, where it's just simply able to not go below it in terms of weekly closes for, say, 6 months or something, then things can get moving relatively quickly. All right, and if that happens, I imagine that Bitcoin will go parabolic sooner than people might think. That doesn't mean that just because we close 1 week above the 8-week that we're destined for 100K this year. Even if we do close above the 8-week, I would say getting to 100K this year is going to be rather challenging, because there's a lot of milestones to get past to get there. By 2022, I think there's a much higher probability. It is possible in 2021. I'm not going to discount it by any stretch of the imagination. I also do think the cycle peak is above $100,000. But the 8-week moving average is a pretty important test, I think. And if we close above it this week and then we close below it next week, then you could just stay in a region that we're in some long accumulation phase or reaccumulation phase. But if it doesn't hold, right? This is the important thing. If it doesn't hold, then the 20-week SMA, the bull market support band, which again is a combination of the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA, that is our last defense. Okay, last support to stay bullish. And you guys know what happens if we go below it, right? I don't need to tell you guys. Alts get wrecked, right? Alts get wrecked against Bitcoin. This is what we saw. Alts get wrecked against Bitcoin if it goes below. You guys know the drill. I know a lot of people are we're all happy. We're making money on altcoins, and we play the game as long as we can. We hope the altcoins go up as fast as they can. Eventually, the altcoin game stops, because then Bitcoin comes back out. And whether the volatility is to the upside or the downside, Bitcoin is going to be taking some names in the not so distant future. Just, that's my opinion. We might have a few more weeks of this, but I do think Bitcoin's going to be taking names sometime in the not so distant future. Ideally, it'd be because Bitcoin's going up, right? Because it's holding the 20-week and going up. But it could also happen if Bitcoin goes down and has, say, some type of capitulation below the 20-week moving average. That would be another scenario where you could see the Bitcoin dominance shooting up. So the 8-week SMA right now is at 46,771. Okay, you can see 8-week estimate, 46,000, and that's on this exchange. Obviously, it's going to vary depending on the exchange. 46,771. The 21-week EMA is at 43,560. So that'll be the first line of defense. The 20-week estimate, the second line after if the 8-week fails, is 41,560. So going into the weekend, if there is a dip below the 8-week, then that is where we're going to want to hold the line. The longer that Bitcoin hangs out up at these levels, the better, because what it's going to allow for is the 20-week SMA to slowly roll over. And ideally, if we're going to test it, we would prefer to test it while the 8-week is moving up, or sorry, while the 20-week is moving up, not while the 20-week is moving down. So those are the things to look out for the weekend watch for Bitcoin. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Remember, we do not run ads here. I don't even have AdSense turned on. We have no affiliate links of any kind. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, show your support, give the video a thumbs up. The only thing that we do is I have the premium list, so if you want to join that and get exclusive content, weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, and more, make sure you guys check that out in the description below. At the very least, subscribe, click the bell icon to turn on your notifications, give the video a thumbs up, and I will see you next time. Bye.